Welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it.
Obvious point to make about Donald Trump is take him literally and seriously. He means what he says. Now he is telling us what he intends to do. And people who try to wish it away, brush it away, are living in an alternative reality. He will do everything he can to become an absolute authoritarian leader if given the opportunity to do so.
Hi there, everyone. You've been warned. It's 5 o'clock in New York. We may finally have landed on this one thing that everyone can agree on. That the disgraced, twice impeached, 4 times indicted ex-president is not at all interested in continuing the American experiment and continuing this democracy thing we've been trying to perfect for the last 247 years. From former Senator and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton making those very pointed comments that were basically echoed by that guy, Jack something, talking about actually ending democracy. Those are his words. Finishing the job they started on January 6th. People on both sides of the spectrum, if you will, are saying the same thing. Gotten the message loud and clear. Donald Trump will give authoritarianism a try if reelected. It's not hyperbole. It's not Trump derangement syndrome. And Donald Trump keeps hinting it and outright telling us it is on his demented bucket list.
You are promising America tonight you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be. Total. The authority is total. It's total. It's total. A great leader in Europe, Viktor Orban. He's the prime minister of Hungary. He's a very great leader, very strong man. Some people don't like him because he's too strong. It's nice to have a strong man running your country.
And you might think, you say those things, that rhetoric is going to stop voters in their tracks. It'll never happen here, that it would be political kryptonite to run like that in America. Not necessarily. These were voters in South Carolina from Saturday.
I believe that sometimes history calls for strong men to be strong leaders at key times in our history, and I think he would be perfect for the job.
Amen.
That was real. America needs a strong man, and she was saying amen. So let's have that conversation, right? Let's do it right here. What kind of damage could an American president who is autocracy curious, autocracy committed do to our way of life, to every facet of civic life as we know it? What would happen to, let's say, women's rights, what's left of them, or civil rights, or the judiciary, or the military, or your money, right? Money in bank accounts. If our democracy started to look and be shaped more like an autocracy or a dictatorship. It's something we're going to dig into and explore on this program in a new series we're calling American Autocracy. It could happen here. And as if on cue, to aid us, Just Security launched their very own American Autocracy Threat Tracker. I'm kidding. They did it on their own, not to aid us at all. But it's amazing, and we'll highlight it and brag about it and pull pieces out for you. It's a comprehensive and chilling catalog of the threats Donald Trump has already made to move America toward an autocracy. Politico is also out with some brand new reporting on this. They report this, quote, former top officials from Donald Trump's administration are warning he's likely to use a second term to overhaul the nation's spy agencies in a way that could lead to an unprecedented level of politicization of intelligence and push even harder to replace people perceived as hostile to his political agenda with inexperienced loyalists. That could empower the former president's top subordinates to shield him from information that doesn't conform with his politics, and even change the wording of assessments with which he disagrees. Sounds like a dictator's dream and a national and international nightmare. That's where we start this hour with some of our favorite experts and friends. Our top-notch panel is Ruth Ben-Ghiat, professor of history at NYU, author of Strong Men, Mussolini to the Present, plus professor in American social thought and chair of the Department of Religious Studies at the University of Pennsylvania, MSNBC columnist, and Thea Butler is here. an endowed chair in civil rights at Howard University. Sherrilyn Ifill is here. It's an honor to have all of you here. I want to start with you, Ruth. I've been watching you and reading you and amplifying everything you've tweeted and said. And I wonder if you have a theory on why everyone isn't having this conversation.
Well, one of the things that my research shows is from the Germans in the early 1930s to the Chileans in the early 1970s who said, we're not going to have a coup, as all the countries around them had a coup. People are always in denial. They're always unprepared. And very often they think that it can't happen here. And nowadays, this is much more difficult to comprehend because today's autocrats tell you what they're going to do. Donald Trump, he was president, and he's saying very openly that he admires dictators, Putin, Xi Jinping, even the leader of North Korea. And authoritarianism is a system where government is arranged so that the leader has total control and can commit crimes and not pay any consequences. And that's what he's saying that he wants for the U.S. And it's been a struggle to wake people up.
Why do you think? Why do you think people can't? And I guess I ask that because it feels like in 15 and 16, he benefited from, I won't say being very ignorant of world history and world affairs. But he ran the country for 4 years, and his ignorance has now been detailed by 3 or 4 former chiefs of staff. General Kelly said he was the most damaged person he'd ever seen up close. Mattis resigned for cause. I think every head of the intelligence agencies left and seemed to have been traumatized by everything they witnessed from the person who was the country's commander-in-chief. There's a lot of reporting and accounting from inside the tank where they'd try to educate him and brief him. Chairman Milley had to literally walk the line. I mean, U.S. national security was on a knife's edge for 4 years. It happened already. How are we contemplating doing it again?
Because Donald Trump, far from being a clown or lazy, he's been relentless at propagandizing and at being an authoritarian personality. One of these traits, and unfortunately for us, he fits the personality profile of every leader in my book. The outcomes are different if you have an old-fashioned dictatorship. But the damaged personality, the destructive personality, where all he cares about is loyalty and making money for his private, businesses and his family from office is exactly the same. So these types of leaders they're not interested in governing. They're interested in getting power and making money. And they don't recognize any difference between public and private. Everything is theirs for the taking. And that's how we've ended up with highly classified, sensitive national security documents in the bathroom of his private residence. That's how they roll. So he is an aberration of heads of state in America, but everything about him is typical of authoritarians.
And it can't happen without, I won't even say complicity, but enthusiasm, right? Those were 2 of his supporters. No one dug around or had to, hunt them out. Those are his supporters actively saying out loud that they want a strong man. How do you fix the sickness in a culture that wants to be something other than a democracy where every vote counts?
It's very difficult to, Nicole. I think part of what's happening now is that people see him as a kind of a father figure, but also a personality that could take care of them. Okay. And so for that woman who was in the clip that said amen, that's also the religious piece of this, because basically they think of him as kind of a demigod. If you remember back during the campaign in 2016 and then what happened afterwards, people called him King Cyrus. They likened him to the Bible, all of this iconography with Jesus behind him on his shoulders. He's not just a figure of popularity like you'd follow a movie star or something. He's much more than that to them. And so they are willing to follow him, and they are willing to give their lives over to him because they know that somehow with him being in office, it's going to make their lives important too.
But what is that? I mean, the other piece, and Tim Alberto has done some great reporting on sort of the erosion, if you will, inside the evangelical movement and their support and the trade-offs they make. I mean, he is someone who hasn't displayed any morality or character in the public space, and yet all of these so-called moral institutions are all in. How does that happen?
Well, it happens because they want power. And I will refer you to last Thursday when he was at National Religious Broadcasters, and he said, "I've come to give you back power." And when you say that, you understand that they don't need him to be a moral person. They don't need him to be upstanding. They need him to give them power. And in that way, if they're empowered, they can do all the rest of the things that they think they believe in morally. And I think that's the important part. I talk a lot about this in my book, White Evangelical Racism. I try to explain to people that morality is a shield for them. It is a protection because it makes it look like you're religious when what you really want is power. And you will use your religion to get power. And I think that's something in the American context is a little bit difficult for people to understand. But it's very important to understand when we're facing autocrats.